Welcome back. All right, so today we're going to take a look at the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche, the 2022 Stanley Cup champions, will not be the 2023 Stanley Cup champions as the field's wide open, in part because the Avs are out after an upset loss at the hands of the Seattle Kraken. Seattle went into Colorado in Game 1, and they won that one 3-1. Game 2, Colorado won 3-2, so they split at home. Then Colorado goes to Seattle and wins 6-4 in Game 3. And it looked like this series was trending in the direction of the Colorado Avalanche as expected. And that, Seattle's had a good run. This makes some sense. But then in Game 4, in overtime, Seattle wins 3-2. So then they go back into Denver. They win 3-2 in Game 5. In Game 6, the Colorado Avalanche go into Seattle and win 4-1. And then Seattle in Game 7, masterful game by the Kraken. They win 2-1 and eliminate the Colorado Avalanche. So the Avs had a season where they went 51-24-7, 109 points. Very good regular season despite missing so many players for so many games. And there are a lot of unanswered questions right now with the Colorado Avalanche. So we'll take a look at the production of players between the regular season and the postseason here. McKinnon, 71 games during the regular season, 42 goals, 69 assists, 111 points. His first career 100-point season, probably not his last. During the playoffs, in 7 games, he had 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. So less points per game, but still a pretty good first round. Just Seattle, their shot suppression's fantastic. Rantanen during the regular season, 82 games, 55 goals, 50 assists, 105 points. He had a very good playoff too. In the 7 games, he had 7 goals, 3 assists for 10 points. Then there's Cale Makar, 60 games played, 17 goals, 49 assists, 66 points during the regular season. In the postseason, he missed a game due to suspension, ends up with a goal and 4 assists for 5 points over the 6-game span. Georgiev's numbers are similar between the playoffs as they were during the regular season. Regular season, he was 40, 16, and 6 with a .918 save percentage. In the playoffs, he was 3 and 4 with a .914 save percentage. So by the end of the series, I would say Grubauer was the better of the two goaltenders, but I think that speaks more to how well Grubauer has been playing for Seattle than to say that Georgiev's played particularly poorly for the Avs. Now, when we look at the UFA and RFA lists, this is a long list, and they're going to have to plan things out. Next year, they do have to worry about Devon Toews. The good news being the 2024 salary cap should be much higher than the one we'll see set this summer. So their UFA list, JT Compher, had a pretty good year. Trying to fill in for Kadri, not easy. They never really found that true number 2 center, but Compher did his best. Newhook was tried there as well. Eller was basically a pure rental. I'd be kind of surprised if he's back. Rodriguez, I think they'll do everything they can to keep Rodriguez. Cogliano, of course, dealing with the fractured neck at this point. Wishing him all the best. I don't know if that was the end of his career or not. We shall find out. Darren Helm, who only played 11 games this year. Nieto, probably just a pure rental picked up from San Jose around the deadline. And both Eric and Jack Johnson, both of them unrestricted free agents this summer. I would be kind of surprised if Eric comes back, but honestly with Jack, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he did. Jack Johnson, I thought, had a good run with Colorado after the trade, and he had a good year last year for Colorado. I think it's in his best interests to stay in Colorado if they can figure out a contract. Restricted free agents, Newhook. So as mentioned, Newhook was one of their attempts at that number 2 center spot. I do think that this summer they will prioritize finding that true number 2 center, and they'll likely have to move somebody off their roster. They may have to mortgage some futures to make it happen, but I think it'll happen. And then there's Malgin, who was a good pickup from Toronto. He played well. And Byram. Bowen Byram deserves a long-term extension, and I think it's going to be a high cap hit, and rightfully so. Bowen Byram is a fantastic defenseman. The sky's the limit. He just needs to find a way to stay healthy for the full 82 games. So their cap space for next year, currently, according to Cap Friendly, $13,987,500. And again, they need a true number 2 center. And also, there's the question of Landeskog. Gabriel Landeskog missed the entire regular season, and it was said that no matter how long the playoffs went, he would not make his return. At some point in time, we have to have the conversation about whether or not an injury might be career-ending, right? The question has been asked of Couturier with injuries that he's gone through, and I think the question is valid with Landeskog. I'm hoping he's good to go by training camp and that he's back next year, but they definitely missed him. 109-point regular season, yes, but during the playoffs, they definitely missed his leadership out there. And then there's the Nichushkin question, and I haven't seen any kind of clarification on where is Valeri Nichushkin right now. He left in Seattle, and that's it. And he wasn't in the lineup for Game 6 and 7. The team said nothing. Nichushkin said nothing. And so he's under contract for $6.12 million until 2030. And not only that, he's got a no movement clause until 2025. So they can't trade him. They can't demote him. 2025 is the earliest they can do anything. And then he has a 12-team no trade clause after that. So he has 12 teams he can tell them, I will not go to these teams in 2025. And it's interesting because it was just last year that Nichushkin signs that extension. We all say, hey, this is great. Nichushkin looks like a beast, and this is just awesome. And now here we are. So one thing that's possible, I was reading on this morning too, is we could see Colorado just not really address it, and he's just in training camp, and then they say, things happen, it was just a personal matter. Or maybe we do see some kind of a move take place. Just because there's a no movement clause doesn't mean a player doesn't get traded. It really means that if a trade does happen, that they have to approve it, right? They have to approve it. They have say in it, and that's why the no movement clause is put in there. Also to bring down the cap hit. That $6.12 million looks expensive for a guy who didn't play Game 6 and 7. But in general, when Valeri is healthy and he's playing, he's a pretty darn good player. So they don't have a second, a third, or a fourth in draft picks this year. They do still have their first. They haven't traded a first. They don't have a second or a third in 2023, or 2024, I should say. And they don't have a second round pick in 2025. So they've been willing to mortgage some draft picks, not firsts. And I agree with Sakic on this. I think this was a good move. So they got rentals. It didn't really work out, but they didn't sacrifice a bunch of first-round picks in order to make it happen. And I think that's really, really key because this is a team that constantly brings in new players, young players. I think Colorado's going to be one of the better teams in the league for a long time. I also think they could absolutely bounce back and win a Stanley Cup again next year. And I don't count that out. I think this is a team that just needs a full long summer. That's one thing about getting eliminated in the first round. You do have a full long summer, and it allows for management to make changes as needed. When you've got a team that's winning in the playoffs, there's more resistance to change. But when they lose in the first round or if a team misses the playoffs, it's much, much easier to sell fans, players, media on the idea you've got to make changes. So I do expect Colorado to be different next year than they were this year. They obviously don't have the cap space to sign everybody unless they trade a contract. And that's why I had to mention Nichushkin because it's not that simple. He does have the no movement clause, and I don't think they'd want to move him right now anyways. Now, in terms of games missed and how important these players are, it's ridiculous. You have Makar, who missed 22 games during the regular season. Nichushkin missed 29. Rodriguez missed 13. Rodriguez playing up and down the lineup, doing a little bit of everything. That's why I think they're going to do everything they can to hold on to him. Byram missed 40 games this year. So Bowen Byram, that's always a concern, is injury. So he needs to play a full season. Again, he's an RFA this summer. I don't think him missing 40 games means he's going to get paid less. I think it'll be a long-term extension. I would think 4, 5, 6 years minimum. Minimum 4 years would be minimum to me. And I think if they can find a way to sign him to 8 without breaking the bank, I think they'll do it. Because Byram Makar, that is one heck of a two-headed beast right there. I remember when they drafted Byram that I saw reports from scouts saying this is absolutely unfair that Colorado has Makar and Byram on the blue line. They're set for the next 15 years. But again, it depends on Byram's health. Manson missed 55 games this year. Absolutely huge loss on their blue line. And of course, Landeskog didn't play a game. Getting a healthy Colorado Avalanche team is important next season. And getting this team into a spot where they can remain at the top of the division is important as well. There were points during the regular season where it looked like they might miss the playoffs altogether. They obviously got it together. They won the division, but then they lose in the first round. So there are still some areas to be worked upon, although a healthy Gabriel Landeskog would certainly help mitigate a lot of that. That's a $7 million cap hit for Landeskog as well. So in the event that Landeskog isn't able to play, then that frees up some money for them with LTIR being as it is. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there because that is a long-term contract. So yeah, we'll see where this all ends up. But let me know your thoughts on whether or not Colorado can bounce back and win another one next year. I think they can, but let me know your thoughts and what they need in order to improve to be able to get through the playoffs yet again. And is it just a matter of needing players to stay healthy? And why is that? Because it feels like every year we have this discussion with Colorado, and it just feels like, Colorado, Pittsburgh seem to be the two that most often we talk about when it comes to major injuries. But yeah, is it a theme with these teams for a specific reason, or is it just bad luck? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.